for this giant slate. There's a ton of information so that we're waiting on, tons of Q tags out there. So we're going to have to figure it out probably a little bit later, and I'll get my content, my early builds and that stuff up a little bit later today than usual probably, just because it's so much to get through. And it's so much to get through, and it's stuff that we really don't know about yet. Imagine, we had a 4-gamer yesterday that had us sort of hand locked, and now we've got a giant one that we're trying to go for, what do we have here today? It's only 7 games, is it? It's actually a lot later than I thought it was going to be, but still a lot of information we're waiting on. Anyway, we're going to go game by game here. I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to talk through using SaberSim through TrueDFS as an example. And here we go. So let's go through game by game here. Starting on the Cleveland side, we have still questionable on Jared Allen. Let me just and Darius Garland. Right now, they're sort of expected to play. It's a good matchup, but because of the pricing and everything, it's going to be kind of hard to get to a lot here for me. So I'm probably going to avoid it unless either Jared Allen or Evan Mobley are out. That's just sort of the way I'm treating it right now, because the way that they're all priced up for Garland and Allen being out, it's going to be kind of hard to play them. I think Allen might be in play if we hear he has no minutes problems or anything like that, but we're going to have to wait to see. And unfortunately, we won't have that till probably a little bit later. Indy with Halliburton and Jalen Smith questionable, who missed the last game. My guess is that they're going to play today, but again, it's still just a guess as of right now. Whether they play or not, it's not a great matchup. I do think Halliburton will, again, as I mentioned, he's always going to be a guy who I look at in the 9K range. It's just not the ideal matchup for me. So Bruce Brown, Ben Mathurin look like probably the best plays here. Maybe you could say Miles Turner, but nobody who I see as a priority this early in the day. Moving over to New York at Milwaukee. I like the prices on some of these New York guys, but I have a hard time getting to Brunson and Randall, so I'm probably mostly off. Mitchell Robinson has had some good games against the Milwaukee in the past. I think we could consider him, but there's going to be probably better stuff that we like a little bit later on to go to, and that's sort of the name of this slate. There's 3 games that I really want to target, and we'll get into those. On the Milwaukee side, look, they've been bad. Maybe this is finally the game where you get the big Lillard or big Giannis game. They're both affordable enough if they have one of those games. I think we have to start price enforcing Giannis pretty soon. I know he hasn't hit these numbers yet, but we know he's going to, and that 70 to 80 is coming very soon. The 10-8 price is actually like as low as we've ever seen him. So I am mostly looking at Giannis here. I'm open to the idea of Lillard, but mostly as of right now, I think Giannis would be the one guy for me from Milwaukee that I would consider. And it's not quite a priority play, but it may end up being by the end of the day, depending on what kind of value we end up with. Brooklyn at Chicago. This is one of the games that I'm interested in, but it's not really on the Brooklyn side quite as much. The pricing has gone up. Chicago plays a little bit slow. I still think getting one of the Brooklyn runbacks is not a bad idea. And my favorite with Dinwiddie coming back, I still think my favorite would probably be Ben Simmons. But Ben Simmons, Cam Thomas, and Dinwiddie would all strongly be in play for me here. And it depends on if they decided to start, for whatever reason, Day'Ron Sharpe or Trendon Watford for me to go there. But Dennis Smith Jr. is supposed to be back as well, which actually makes a difference because he plays, 20-plus minutes a game. So really need to wait on that before we make our final decision here. But I do think this is a game I like on the other side. So I did want to try to find a run back because I like all of Levine, Vucevic, DeRozan, and Kobe White. Now that may change as the day goes out. I think I'm probably going to limit it to just 2 of them. I think there's some lineups, if you get a run back, you could play 3 of them. But mostly I want to actually just play 1. I have Levine and Vuce as my preferences, followed by DeRozan and Kobe White. But I think getting exposure to these guys, the usage is going all through them on this team. I think this is an interesting spot to try to attack. And if you wanted to get, if you want to play a Kobe White, Vooch, and Patrick Williams in a stack, I don't think that I have any issue with that. It's just, for me, the main priorities are going to be the best, the guys with all the usage. And I like the idea of getting one of them on a good portion of my lineups, if not all of my lineups, as of right now. Again, it's going to change as we start getting different value throughout the slate. But right now, the Bulls look like a really good spot to attack. And I would be happy to play any of those top 4. Golden State at OKC, another one where you might want to try. We kind of would like to try to find a run back if we had to, but we don't want to overly force it. And it's kind of tricky because you've got, Kuminga's back and everybody's priced up. Steph has been unbelievable this year, but even in being unbelievable, he's only averaging 47 fantasy points per game, and he's 10-1. He's scored the most points in the NBA so far this season. He has the most threes so far this season. He would be the guy I guess you would look to possibly. I think Andrew Wiggins' price is sort of tempting, as well as Draymond. So all those guys are in consideration for me, but mostly it's going to be on the other side, and even that is going to be a little bit trickier to figure out because we have no Shea tonight. So without Shea, Jalen Williams becomes the first super obvious play for me. I think that's a really, really good play. I think Josh Giddey is a really good play. And I think Chet Holmgren gets a little less of a boost than those guys do, but probably even a little better for him as well. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the Kason Wallace. I'd like to see who they start. If they started Kason Wallace, I'm open to that. I'm open to Isaiah Joe if they started him for some reason. And they could do the weird thing where they play Wiggins. But mostly the usage is going to go to Jalen Williams and Josh Giddey. Giddey's price is a little bit higher, but I think they're both very, very solid. And as of right now, those would be the two I'd prioritize the most. If you wanted to get any deeper, and I do think you could play three of these guys because of the way that they, the way things are set up, the pace of this game. And if you played like a Giddey, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, and ran it back with, again, if you had enough money, I guess if you could run it back with Draymond, or you could run it back with Wiggins. But I think Steph would be the most desirable one. But I don't think you have to run it back either. I was just saying if I played those three spend ups, 765, 7600, and 8400, then I might want to get a run back. But again, I don't want to overly force it on this slate, because we've got a lot to choose from. Moving over to Washington, Miami. On the Washington side, it looks like everybody's good to go tonight. I'm curious what they do with Coulibaly. I'm sorry, Kispert is not in tonight, but Coulibaly's been playing minutes, but that's been Gafford out. He's been starting. You see that Gallinari back in our lives with the projection there. Probably going to just leave this one alone. I will make a note that Gafford I think is okay, but I don't want to prioritize it in this very, very tough matchup. And same thing with Kuzma and Jordan Poole. I just don't think this is the right matchup to try to go crazy with them. If Gafford was out again, I probably would consider Kuzma, but I have some worry about this game staying close. Although in all fairness, Miami's been awful this season. This early projection on Josh Richardson seems a little bit crazy to me. I'm going to say that I think that it's a little bit overdone to project him this high. I think he's the best projected player on the slate, but I do think he's definitely in play. I also have Kevin Love as definitely being in play as well. And I don't know if this is the Jimmy Butler spot where I want to use him, but 8,400 is getting tempting. It is a good spot for Bam also. So all of these Miami guys are definitely interesting to me. And then you've got the Tyler Hero and basically the nut matchup for him. If he can get it going, this team is not going to put up a whole lot of defense. So I'm sort of interested in everybody, but the ones who right now look like I don't want to say priorities, but closer to priorities would be Josh Richardson and Kevin Love. And I'll probably change this as the day goes on when we get more value. But as of right now, I'm going to tag Richardson. I'm also going to go back real quick and tag Jalen Williams and Giddey. And I'm also going to tag Levine. All right. Moving on to Dallas and Denver. Look, Luka, they made $13K. No one's going to play him, depending on what value we get. I'm going to go ahead and say that Luka, along with Giannis, is another tremendous spend up. I don't really care that he's priced up. Kyrie coming back. I just like the idea of getting the sure 60 plus fantasy points, feeling like every basic night. Even with Kyrie back, I think that would be okay. But we also don't have official word on that. And also, you get a little, Luka's going for the MVP this year, going up against the former champion and the two-time former MVP from the previous 2 years, other than last year, of course, when Embiid won it. And look, they don't really have a big that's going to be able to match up with Jokic. And he's another one that goes into the, okay, can we get to him type of play? And I'd be totally fine if we can. If you can't get to him, I do think Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. are both interesting. Neither quite make the priority list for me, but I do think that they're guys who I'm definitely considering using in some portion of my lineups as of right now. It's a good game environment. Denver's facing a very weak defensive team. Again, a little bit of blowout worry just for me. I could see Denver dominating this game, but I'm gonna bet on Luka and that this game stays close enough at least that we get final run out of it. Memphis and Portland. This is the other spot. We'll get to Portland in a minute. That's the other spot where there's a lot of stuff. And then you've got a lot on the Memphis side. So I kind of like the idea, especially if we don't have news on information, of maybe stacking up this game and hoping it goes our way, because I'm hoping that we have injury news break our way. But even if we don't, you could play a nice stack of this game. Jaren Jackson, Desmond Bane both stand out as being really strong plays against a really weak Portland team that turns the ball over, gets their shots blocked a ton. They miss a ton of shots. That's good for Jackson. And they've been just really, really inept. And so has Memphis been in terms of winning games. Marcus Smart is a very strong play at 6,800. So I like a lot of stuff on this side. Xavier Tillman, probably in order if I had to rank it. I think I would have Smart as the one I like the best right now, followed by Tillman. But I think the idea of putting these guys in your early builds makes a lot of sense, giving you pivotability as we find out about news as the slate goes on. And maybe that would even include like a guy like Zaire Williams, where you're hoping for better value later on. Again, we don't know yet. It's still very early in the day. I mean, hopefully we get more information earlier, but it seems like every day we get it very late. So I just want to be prepared for that. We've got no Scoot Henderson on Portland, which is going to make everybody look like a really strong play. So this game feels very stackable. The Kamara thing, I'll revisit that, but it certainly is tempting with that projection at that price. And again, it's a placeholder. You could find something you like better. So maybe that is not a bad idea of something to do. I think of all these guys right now, Brogdon's going to be the most popular. I think it makes a lot of sense. I also think Sharp, just because of the price, might rub some people off. No, I think it's a very strong play. And I think that DeAndre Ayton's a very strong play. Jeremy Grant, I'm totally good with as well. But that's the way that I'm sort of breaking it down with this right now. And then on Memphis side, I put the Tillman and Smart. So I think that stacking this late game for a number of reasons makes a lot of sense. One, the two bad teams going at it, the lack of the Scoot Henderson starting point guard for Portland. It just makes a lot of sense to me to try to get exposure to this game. So I am going to do so. And that also buys us some time while we wait to hear about other news if we don't have some of it by lock. So that's sort of my strategy today on this slate. Priorities, again, you can see real quick, I'm going to set this very early version of my cores. I'm going to edit this before I post it because it's a very, very early version. But these are the guys who I would be playing on this slate, probably like a good 35 to 45% of all of them. Let me just go to all of them. And there you have it. That's sort of the guys. And then trying to find the run backs for each of those games. So really the teams that targeting Portland, OKC is the main ones because of their starting point guards being out. On the other side, you have the possible run backs with Memphis and possible run backs with Golden State that I think makes for an interesting way of playing. And then you get the Bulls in Brooklyn, similar type of situation. They don't have any. It's not that they're missing anybody so much. It's just that the usage is going to these guys, and they're in a really good matchup. So they would be the next one for me. So anyway, I'll be live at 6 Eastern to help finish up. I would just remind everybody to be in the Discord if you want to have much of a chance, these days, unless you're paying attention to everything, because it is really, it's going to be tough on these bigger slates. And this one isn't as big as we've seen on some of the Fridays, but it is big enough to where one thing changing is going to affect everything. And in that case, I'm always going to pop into Discord and say what I think, as long as it's not like at lock or the next minute before lock. So if you want to tag me and ask me questions, try to do it as early as you can before the next game start on lock. But when each game locks, like the 7 o'clock game, the 7:30 games, the 8 o'clock games, the earlier the better. But we will do the best we can to get everything updated and done as quickly as possible. We've got Goldie, who's been working really, really hard on this stuff for basketball, which we really appreciate. And reminder, please like please like the videos, and you can subscribe to True DFS with promo code BobbyFi NBA and 25% off your first month. Anyway, thanks so much for everything, guys. And I'm going to say good luck tonight, and I'll see you guys live at 6 Eastern. Good luck, everybody.